Hi, everyone. My name is Vidal Márquez. I'll do the introduction again since we are recording. I am the immediate past chair of the Latinos in Planning Division, and I'm going to do a visual description. I have short black hair with some gray highlights. I'm wearing glasses. I have a goatee, and I'm wearing a dark navy shirt. And I wanted to explain that because it's helpful for accessibility purposes for those folks who need additional assistance. And I also want to point out that you have captions available to you on this webinar. So if you need additional assistance following the conversations that we're having today. I want to thank you for inviting me to this collaboration. The Arts and Planning and Latinos in Planning Division have had a partnership for the last 3 years where we had walking tours, visits to galleries, art galleries, and we also had presentations at our annual virtual conference called Lugares, and I'll share some material for you all on that. Today we're joined by our guest, Susana Rojas. Unfortunately, we aren't going to be joined by Elsa Mosquera due to a family emergency, so we hope they are well. But we're excited to present a conversation regarding Latino communities, cultural corridors, cultural districts, and also placemaking. I'll do a little presentation in a moment regarding Latino placemaking and place of Elsa's presentation. So let's introduce our guests and welcome them. Susana Rojas was born in Bogota, Colombia, and has worked in the mission community in San Francisco over the past 31 years. She started her career in the community as a program assistant at Mission Girls and continued her professional growth working at the Boys and Girls Club of San Francisco, Mission Neighborhood Centers, and most recently as the executive director of Calle 24 Latino Cultural District. Susana has dedicated her life to empowering and supporting the mission community and brings passion, dedication, and commitment to Calle 24. So we want to welcome Susana. Hello, Susana.
Buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susana Rojas. I identified as a woman, and my pronouns are she, her, ella. And I have short curly hair. I wear glasses, and I am wearing a bright green shirt. And I want to first thank all of you for welcoming us here to this space. And I hope that this presentation gives you a little bit more of insight on our cultural district, how do we get here and where we're going. And I hope that we can engage in healthy conversation during this presentation. So give me just a second as I get my, can you guys see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, so we are Calle 24 Latino Cultural District. This is our 10-year anniversary. We first got incorporated as a cultural district in 2014, in May of 2014. And now it's not letting hold. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. It won't let me scroll to the next slide. So just give me 1 second, please. Oh, there we go. So who are we? Calle 24 is located in the south end of the San Francisco Historic Mission District. We have a beautiful main street on 24th Street that is lined by trees. And in this heat wave has been a lifesaver because it's definitely offer us some shade. 24th Street, which is our main commercial corridor, is also known as El Corazón de la Misión, or the heart of the mission. We have beautiful, colorful storefronts. We have amazing street vendors. We have events, and we have fresh produce and bakeries where every morning when you walk down our street, you can smell all of the delicious food that is being prepared for the day. And definitely you can smell the bread baking, and you know, there's nothing better than fresh conscious or pan dulce in the morning. We also are known for our murals, and we have over 700 murals in our area, and we are known as the largest outdoor gallery in the country. So what is a cultural district? A cultural district is a region and a community linked together by similar cultural or heritage resources and offering a visitor experience that showcases those resources. Our actual boundaries are defined in this map. So we start on Cesar Chavez and go all the way to 22nd Street. Then from Bartlett all the way to Potrero. So it's a pretty large area. However, our mission and our vision is not only for this area. This is the area that is designated by the legislation. But our mission and vision is to protect, elevate, and enhance the Latino culture in the greater mission and the city as a whole. So how did we come up with all of the things that we do? There were a lot of community meetings and a lot of town halls where the founders were able to really gather the information from the community of what they consider culture, what were our assets, how would we protect them, what is things that when you think of the mission, right, and you think of the Latino community that immediately come to mind, and this is what defines us in the mission, and those then became part of the legislation and part of the things that we protect. So some ways that we had to make sure that we did in order to protect not only our community, but also the cultural district is that we created a 501c3 to manage the Latino Cultural District. We also created and leveraged a special use district designation. So the special use district designations is created to make sure that we don't get bombarded by fancy restaurants, small boutique stores, and they displace the kind of mom and pop restaurants, the more ethnic restaurants, the more affordable stores. So we try to make sure that we have a good balance so that we have an economic diverse corridor where people who have great income can come and find an experience, and people who may not have the same kind of income can still come and enjoy the community. Implement the cultural benefits district campaign and assessment. So like I said, there was a lot of meetings to gather the information and meetings to disperse the information of what we were planning to do and why was it important. Making sure that we had community-wide communications and promoting the district through our traditional media, social media, and word to mouth. And as we know, in communities like ours, word to mouth is usually the best outreach tool that you can have, because you know, the señoras are at the corner and they're talking to each other and they're like, oh, you know, they're going to have this meeting and there's going to be childcare. And so you should come through. And if we're doing it potluck style, they'll be like, oh, and I'm bringing my tamales, make sure, you know, the ones that you like. And then next thing you know, you have the whole community there just because they were all talking to each other. Also, we have invested a lot on our social media, and we have an amazing marketing coordinator who has elevated our branding to make sure that everything that goes out from Calle 24, the minute that you see it, even if it doesn't have the logo right away, you immediately think, oh, that comes from Calle. That's something from Calle, just in the way that we do our postings, in the way that we do our branding, the color scheme, everything, it is ingrained in everything that we do. We also make sure the mission is very rich in nonprofit organizations and art organizations. So we leverage that wealth of resources that we have, because in our opinion, the cultural district is all of us working together, and it is the network of services and protections that are out there that support our community to stay in our community. So we would not be able to be strong without the rest of our organizations and vice versa. So we leverage all of those community connections. We make sure that we are in the know of what's happening in the nonprofits and in the know of what's happening with our community. Because when we get so busy, and we get so much into our planning and into what we're doing, we can lose track of what's happening right in front of our nose, because we have the goal of what we want to do right in front of us, and we can lose track. And in order for us to be able to be the best program for our community, we have to be able to pivot and adjust according to what's happening in the community. And one proof of that is during the pandemic, everything that was happening was health. And Calle 24 is the furthest thing from a health organization. However, because at some point, 80% of the emergency room visits were Latinos, and the ICU beds were at 90% filled by Latino community, we had to jump into action. Because if we did not do that, and if we did not pivot, we were gonna go from a vibrant, very alive community full of our culture and our residents to something that became more of a museum of people that used to be here. So we pivoted to make sure that we were providing the services that were needed, and we needed to collaborate with all of our community agencies to make sure that we accomplish that, so that we completely leverage all of our resources and created a network that protected our community. We serve as a safety net for like the cultural, the traditional cultural community events such as Carnaval, Dia de los Muertos, Cesar Chavez parade and celebration. We revived the Fiesta de las Americas, and on September 21st, we were able to hold it again. We had over 3,000 attendees. We closed 4 blocks. We had a youth stage, we have a traditional stage, then we had like a rock type of stage, like Latino rock type of stage, and it was a great success. We had 0 incidents where the police or first aid was needed. It was an alcohol-free event, and we saw complete families, from the pet to the seniors in their family, walking around and having a great event. And it was a great boost for our corridor economic wise. We also try to generate sufficient resources to support and sustain the programs and activities in the Latino Cultural District, and we pursue social and economic justice every day. And we have the Si Se Puede spirit, which is demonstrated by everything that we have to face. Currently, we had a cut in our funding. We were from having a $1.7 million from the city to now having $440,000 from the city. So we had to lay off staff, and we had to definitely redo and rethink the way that we're doing things. However, the commitment, the type of events, the amount of work that we do continues to be the same, and it wouldn't be possible if we didn't have a staff team that is completely dedicated and loves the community and thinks about how are we going to do this? Not like, oh my God, this is impossible to do. It might not be as huge as we want, like, you know, our mind thinks about it, but we get it done, we complete it. So like I said, all of these areas were something that were created out of community agencies, and these were the areas that where they thought that we needed to have dedicated committees to concentrate in this area. So we have economic vitality that includes anything from helping small businesses to creating the events, right? To make sure that we bring the foot traffic, cultural assets and arts. So the same thing, making sure that we have events, that we protect our artists, that we protect our murals, that we elevate the murals that we have, and that we encourage people that are coming into our community to, when they're building or when they're decorating or painting their houses again, that they think of like how the block looks and blend into the block with the colorful, with the murals, as opposed to changing the way that the block looks, right? We had a time where a lot of people wanted to come and paint their houses black, which was completely different from the colorful murals that we had. So it's having those conversations and making sure that we help people who are moving into our community understand the community that they're moving into, and that they learn to love and appreciate it. Some of our cultural accomplishments, some of the district accomplishments is we were able to be designated as a state cultural district. which this offers us a higher visibility and offers us access to state funding. And honestly, if we hadn't had that, we would be in a very different situation right now with the cuts that we had. But because of that connection and being designated as state cultural district, we were able to get a grant that is helping us sustain ourselves. The special use district, I was talking a little bit about it. So we have regulations for commercial so that we can protect that it is not an oversaturation of fancy restaurants, small boutiques. We also are very careful of how many smoke shops, liquor stores, liquor licenses are in our community, because as we know, in communities of colors, there's always there tends to be food deserts and lots of like corner shops and liquor stores. So we try to prevent that and create a mix of a mix that is beneficial for everybody that lives in our community and that protects our culture. Housing, we advocated for 100% affordable housing, and we have so far completed 1,400 units of that, and we continue to advocate. We also have special design guidelines. So people who want to come and build in the district, we ask them to include odes of respect to the Latino culture. So be it a mural outside of the new building, be it about like in the design, it continues to match the look of the mission, and that it honors that tradition. And like I said, making sure that the painting and things like that are go accordingly to how our neighborhood looks. And also that the rents are such that people from different economic levels can live in that place. Art space, we were able to secure 5,000 square feet for one of our arts organization, which is amazing to have 5,000 square feet to continue to promote and elevate art in our community. We reestablished Fiesta de las Americas, and like I said, we just held it on September 21st, and we had over 3,000 people. And right now we're getting ready for Dia de los Muertos. And we have preserved the flags of the Americas along 24th Street. So if you were to come here, you can walk down and you'll see different countries represented in each block. And we have the flags. And then we have in every sign, it says Calle 24, and on the bottom it says Latino Cultural District. Like I mentioned before, the architectural design guidelines, we have gone down to 64 Latino businesses, and we're up to 86 right now out of 130 businesses that we have in the Latino Cultural District. So we're doing really good at not only keeping our Latino-owned businesses, but bringing new ones. We have secure office space, and we also have secure a place right across our office space that used to, well, it still is as SFMTA parking lot, but we're using it to provide services. We also have an outdoor market for our street vendors there, and we provide small events and fundraising opportunities for the community there. This is the staff team that we were able to hire. Like I said, because of budget cuts, we have to go down from this staffing component, but we're looking at bringing it back to that. So historic preservation, we have done a historic survey to make sure that we know which are the historic buildings in our community to help protect them. We have, like I said, the signage all over that it says that is the Latino Cultural District. We have stable funding right now, but as of there's $230,000 that are assigned for cultural districts. We do have to apply, through RFP, but at least we know that there's a pot of money that is always reserved for the cultural districts. For the future, we are looking at enhancing more public space for cultural activities. We're working on mural protection policies. We've had some people that have bought buildings and have completely, without any notice or anything, we walked by and all of a sudden a mural is completely gone. So we want to make sure that we have some protections for that. Equitable transportation policies. So working with SFMTA to make sure that everything that happens makes sense for the combination of people that we have. There is a strong push to be more environmental friendly and have more bikes and more walking areas, which sounds great. And for the environment is great. But when you think of a family that has kids in 3-4 different schools, and they're gonna need public transportation, and a bicycle is not gonna work for a mom with 3 or 4 kids. So it's also keeping all the different mix of people that live in our community that have different needs for transportation while taking care of our environment. We want to continue to expand the cultural district. So we're looking, the mission is lucky to have the Latino Cultural District, but it also has the American Cultural District. So we're looking to expand so that our boundaries really meet in the middle, basically. So, and we will share 18th Street together. And that would be kind of like the two cultural districts coming together. So this is how we're looking at expanding, so that with having both cultural districts and the whole area, we will protect the whole Mission community from gentrification and from attacks on our culture. So right now we're working on tour protections and fees. There's a lot of companies that pop up and start making money out of doing tours of our murals and our community, and none of that money gives back to our community. None of that money helps protect our murals. None of that money helps make sure that our community is able to enhance. So we want to figure out, how do we make sure that, yes, you want to do a tour of, absolutely, that's why this place is so beautiful, but make sure that you're protecting the community that you're making money off of. We want to put more banners in our community to, again, highlight where our cultural district is. We have done some guidelines on the parklets to make sure that it doesn't impede the cultural events, and that in a main street such like 24th Street, where Carnival, Fiesta de las Americas, and all of these events happen, that those parklets don't become an impediment or an obstacle for us to be able to continue to have our events. And then we are working really hard to create the Arch of the Resistance, Los Arcos de la Resistencia, which will be, if you have gone to Logan Park, I think that's the name of the neighborhood, or if you've gone to Chinatown here in San Francisco, at the entrance there's these beautiful dragons that let you know that you are now in Chinatown. So that's the idea with the Arcos de Resistencia, that as soon as you get off and you see those arcs, you're like, oh, we're in the Latino Cultural District. This is the staff team that make everything happen here. You have me, you have our administrator coordinator, our marketing coordinator, our business liaison, and our promotor. And now I leave it for you guys to, any questions?
Thank you, Susana. I think we'll get to questions after I do a quick presentation, but I have some questions for you that we'll discuss in a moment. So thank you for your presentation, and
I'll stop sharing now.
I'll begin my brief conversation, which I presented this last week at the California chapter conference. And so this is a presentation about Latino placemaking. And we kind of say Latino, Latine, Latinx. They're all fine. If anyone on this webinar is curious why we label different types of identities, well, we want to represent all the identities of our community. So this presentation I did was regarding a market, an outdoor market here in Los Angeles. And let me see if I can do presentation. Do you see the full screen?
Not yet. If you,
No, okay.
Yeah, if you do the little presentation button next to the zoom in, zoom out on the bottom right-hand corner.
Let's see.
See the little desk? Yep.
Okay, there it is. So this presentation, thank you. This presentation I did last year, I wanted to talk about places and spaces that Latinos occupy and live and thrive. And I was following for the last few years a market known as Avenue 26 Night Market. It's located in a community here in Los Angeles called Lincoln Heights. And so this community, predominantly Latino, Hispanic, Mexican, and adjacent to a lot of industrial uses. And in this kind of area, an industrial kind of community, which we see in many across the region, are vendors selling to the workers in those businesses. And so for many years, many decades, there's been vendors in this area. And over time, you know, one become two, become five. But what really exploded was the pandemic, post-pandemic period. So around 2001, this community of vendors pretty much blew up to over 100 vendors. And people, after the restrictions, pandemic restrictions were lifting, people wanted to go out and socialize and, live and also sell their products. And so this community faced, a lot of changes in a short amount of time. And I want to show you a map of where we're talking about. For those familiar with Los Angeles, we have Dodger Stadium over here, Elysian Park, big open space area. And this is kind of the location of the market itself. And so this incredible, market that just popped up overnight, which the market itself overnight had so many different vendors attracting the community, not just food, but also various merchandise and products. And it was also helping those who, needed some economic support to sell and support for their families. And so it just kind of grew and grew. And TikTok, if those who are on social media, kind of help propel it to another level of kind of intense attraction. This was great while it lasted, but the city kind of officials, the council member at the time, were worried about public safety, worried about traffic issues, sanitation issues, a lot of kind of challenging issues to deal with. Well, what they ended up doing was saying that they don't want to see this market happen anymore. They want to basically shut it down and end it, and mainly for health and safety reasons. And so basically, they were against it and they shut it down. They essentially fenced off the area and didn't allow any of the vendors to establish anymore. Released this press release, kind of scathing, saying that they wanted to eliminate all these public nuisances, illegal alcohol sales, public defecation and urination, crime and violence. I personally did not attend the market at the time, but seeing a lot of the footage and videos, and there was a lot of local journalists, highlighting the event and the TikToks. I didn't see anything that this press release indicated was occurring. So unfortunately, the council member pretty much removed and displaced these vendors from operating. And a lot of the vendors who have been there prior to the market, were distraught. They wanted to find a new place to establish. One vendor, Senor Jimenez here, described, the location as just an empty, dark alleyway, one of the streets that had nothing really going there. And what they created was, a new space full of life, full of energy and community. And so unfortunately, the market tried to reestablish in the area and they weren't successful with meeting with the council members. And so they had a divorce, a split, And so some of the vendors found a new location south of this area, which is in an area known as the Arts District, south of the Arts District. And they renamed themselves as the Imperial Street Night Market. And the others continued on with the Avenue 26 Market, but were able to relocate further eastward of the area, about 10 miles away, and a location known as the Pico Rivera Sports Arena. The Pico Rivera Sports Arena is an arena that was built in 1978 in the community of Pico Rivera, which is a predominantly Latino Mexican community. And they have a variety of uses at the sports arena: entertainment, sports. The national sport of Mexico is, rodeo. A lot of horse and bull and different type of tournaments related to Mexican culture and music, Mexican music and dance. So this location was a perfect location for the market to be reborn again and find a new space to establish. Here's a map showing the location of the previous site in Lincoln Heights in Los Angeles, and then headed eastward 10 miles out down to the community of Pico Rivera. And this green area, and I'll speak on that in a moment, is there's a dam here, and this is kind of the green space, green open area related to the dam. So they thrived. This was in 2021. They have a variety of community events, festivals, celebrating the culture, celebrating music, celebrating the community. I was there a few occasions on the Kids Day. And it's just a fun location, a fun space, very safe, very accessible to get into, very affordable. It's free to attend. And you support the businesses that wanted to continue the market, and you support new businesses and incubate new businesses to establish. And they're also, at a location where it's, known by the community to hold such, fantastic events. And I have a fun little video here of kids dancing. Hope you can hear it, but there's a lot of music that's pretty loud. And so this is just one, fun family event that, brought in a lot of the community in the area. But all good things come to an end. I learned this summer from members of the staff at the city of Pico Rivera that the future of the market and the stadium is under threat. That dam I mentioned a moment ago is going to be modified and increased in width and height. And so this image here shows this kind of lavender line here. That is the dam. This lavender line is the dam. And it borders the city to the south, Pico Rivera, and to the north is that green open space recreational area. And the sports arena, if you can make it out, is kind of along this road known as Rooks Road. And you can kind of make out from an aerial view the location of the sports arena. Well, this road was a secondary exit for the sports arena. It will be eliminated and removed during this modification of the dam. The dam is under the Army Corps of Engineers, and so this is a priority project for safety and flood control. So this is a huge project that they implemented in the 2000s, 2010s, and they completed a study in 2019 on its repair and reconstruction and modification. They've already started a first phase of preparation for this project. Next year, 2025, is when they start the real heavy demolition and repair of the project. And unfortunately, will cause the sports arena to basically be rendered, unusable because of that road being lost. Here's kind of an impact of breakdown of the Army Corps of Engineers They're gonna eliminate not just that road, but they're also gonna eliminate some parks that are adjacent to the dam. And a lot of these parks that'll be eliminated, provide different services, recreation, there's a golf course, there's a riding arena for horses, there's a big horse culture. Speaking to the staff at the city, they're gonna see 50% of their parks be, eliminated. The economic loss of all of this impact to their community is, and the hundreds and thousands of dollars, which is, very, very unfortunate. They're looking to see if they can work with their Congress and elected representatives to see if there's any way to kind of make some new changes to that road or other secondary alternatives. So it's still in the middle of that process, so there hasn't been any decisions on that yet. And just to end here, in terms of like placemaking, it's very challenging to find places now that we're seeing large urbanization across our communities, and these spaces are displacement being pushed out, being addressing just the need of a culture to kind of express and entertain and thrive, is unfortunately coming to an end. But I did this presentation to talk about open air markets and placemaking, and really to have people understand, the cycle, the cycle of these vendors, these markets, and how they can continue on and thrive in different places. This may not be the end of the market. This may be just another transitional time for it. But in a world where we just see, huge changes and development and impacts to these communities, the party continues as one of their taglines for the Pico Rivera sports arena is that they want to support these much needed cultural places. And so I wanted to add that uh, in terms of our conversation here today. So thank you for allowing me to present that. But let's go back into our Q&A with Susana, and we can talk a little bit more about her experience and creating and supporting cultural districts. So, Susana, I want to ask first, what inspired you in a role of leadership? I mentioned in your biography how you worked at these different organizations. So, where did that drive come from and being a leader in your community?
Thank you. Wow. I think I kind of fell into community service work. I immigrated from Colombia when I was 14 years old, and I first moved to New York. And then I became pregnant. And when I became pregnant, I was at a crossroad, and I had to make decisions for myself and for my future baby. And I moved to San Francisco, and that's where I started working in a small church and started getting to know the community. And I have the privilege of being the daughter of a mother that was beyond her years and was always giving back to community. So I kind of fell into the work following in my mom's footsteps by falling into a community that was full of activists and full of organizations that really took care of the community. And that's how I became involved. And I made the transition of being an executive director for the cultural district because I had done all the work with the families, with the youth, and I needed to do something that protected and elevated all of the work that we are doing, and that connected it in a network, and that really saw how everything is interconnected and how it all works together. And that's why I decided to be the executive director for the district.
Oh, wonderful. And can you talk about the importance of place? In my presentation, we spoke about how place is important where things are developed. And this origin of the corridor, I mean, goes back decades, right? From small businesses and people who live there. And can you share a little bit just about the importance of this place and building those relationships? Because I understood that the organization started first as kind of a business organization first, right?
Yeah. So placemaking is everything. And for community like ours, we are often displaced all the time, right? They set aside a piece of land that they think would be great for us. It doesn't necessarily mean that the piece of land is the best piece of land for what people are thinking about. Is kind of like, hey, you can go over here and do what you want, and then once we transform it and once they see the beautiful things that this piece of land has, then all of a sudden then we're displaced again. So placemaking and making sure that we have things that protect our history and protect our contributions are super important, because that's what not only keeps us in the community, but also allows those who come behind us to remember and honor those who came before us. The organization itself is a labor of love of many community activists for more than 25 years. I think more than 30 years, people really started working and creating this small groups. Like the very first iteration was the Calle 24 Merchant Association. So it's very tiny, and it was all merchants, and they trying to make sure that they were surviving. And now we're here as the cultural district with very real protections and very real placemaking.
And talk about how the organization, I mean, as business owners and then as activists protecting their spaces, how did they all come together to organize? How did did they have that vision? Maybe they didn't have a vision of a cultural district, or maybe they did, but how important is it to kind of build consensus within so many individuals and groups? Even your work today, I mean, it must be challenging to have so many different interests and parties work together on this vision.
So in the 2000s, when the first .com move came, that's when gentrification really hit the mission very, very strong. Just in San Francisco, we lost over 50,000 members of of the city. They had to move out because it became so expensive. In the mission, we lost over 8,000 Latino residents. So that exodus is really what prompted our founding group to make sure that we had the protections, because had they not start taking those steps and really advocate, we wouldn't have Latinos in the mission anymore. We like right now, as it is, we're very spread out through the city, but the mission is still considered the Latino neighborhood, and we protect it with everything that we have, so that people know that they have a place to come, where there's a network of resources, where there's the food that they eat, the music that they like, and the cultura, right, where you can feel like you're at home. And like right now, we're facing it again. Now it's not the .com movement, now is the AI movement, and we actually have a whole neighborhood that has sprouted out of nowhere within the mission, and they call themselves the Mission Creek. And they slowly but surely have been putting markers in the back streets of our community, where they say the Mission Creek neighborhood, where the creatives live. And if you go, they have private security. They have completely eliminated Latino residents in those areas, and they are now creating groups, neighborhood groups, where they have joined forces, and they call themselves the Alma Neighborhood Associations, which to us is very offensive that they co-opted a Latino name that means soul to gentrify our community. And they have gotten some Latino businesses because they have something that we don't have. During the pandemic, like I said, we were trying to save lives, and we were working 14, 16, 17 hours, bringing vaccines, providing food, making sure that people that were sick were able to stay. Like, we were super busy during that time, and our community members were to continue to work. During that time, these people were meeting on Zoom and creating a plan on how to gentrify the community. And they created groups where it's called Mission Vibrant, where they are doing exactly what we do, but in a more gentrified way. So we do tour groups, right, where we show the different art, the different events. We don't charge, right, because we want to expand, but they do it again, and they charge, and like is the exact same thing. The only difference is not a community of color that's leading it. And then they have gone to all of the different stores and saying, look, if you ban the street vendors and Mission, the Mission is going to be so much better. And then you can have small boutiques and fancy restaurants, and you're going to be able to charge $40 for your burrito. Wouldn't you make more money if you were charging $40 for the burrito? And of course, given the economy that we are in now, they're not seeing that all of us are affected by the economy, because it's always one of the biggest and easiest and most successful strategies to gentrify or to really oppress a community is by blaming the most vulnerable in the community for what's going on. And that's what's happening now. So that's what they did with the street vendors. They were banned, and they were like so happy because they were banned. But guess what? The poverty, the issues, the inequities are still there. So no matter if you ban the street vendors, the inequities are still there because nothing was done to address the inequities. So it's still, now you have street vendors that were affected because they couldn't be there, and the inequities are still being there, right? We still have people without homes. We still have people that are struggling with addiction, and nothing was really invested in there. But what they were successful to do is turn communities of color against each other, those who have a little bit more blaming the ones that have a little bit less. So for us, what is important is we have to navigate that, and we have to continue to make sure that we illustrate this, that we're letting them know. First of all, most of us live paycheck to paycheck, and in San Francisco, being as expensive as it is, me as an executive director, I still live paycheck to paycheck, right? And helping people understand that is important, because then they understand that it's just one paycheck away from them to be the ones that are sleeping in the car, like many of our community members. So keeping that perspective and really pushing the envelope, and being that I often call ourselves mosquitoes. And I didn't say it today because, you know, I didn't know the group, but I usually, when I introduce myself, I say I identified as a mosquito, because I won't leave you alone until I get what I want. So that's literally what it takes, is just being relentless, making sure that we're in people's ears. Like, you know, sometimes I laugh because I'll go to City Hall for something, and I'm really not going to a particular office, but there are offices that I'm more known at, and not for being very smiley all the time. So when they see me come, they're like, oh, and I'm like, I'm not coming for you today. Don't worry. I'm going to someone else. So it's just like being able to be that. And honestly, when you're talking about doing the work that we're doing to protect our community, you have to have thick skin. You have to be able to go and say, it doesn't matter the name that you're going to call me today. It doesn't matter how many times you're going to turn around and not want to talk to me. You're still going to see me here tomorrow. And it's just having that resiliency.
I totally get it. I totally see it. Can you share with us now, pivoting to like the arts and programs? You mentioned it in your presentation about the murals and kind of new buildings or new ideas about incorporating those themes into the community. How does one get started? As say an artist, does an artist come to your organization and say, I want to draw a mural, I want to do a mural on a building? Or are you monitoring, like you mentioned, are you monitoring, the art that takes place in the district?
So that would be really difficult. We would need like 100 people to be able to do that, but we don't have that capacity. But we work with our different organizations. We do have an organization that's called Presida Eyes, and they keep an ongoing inventory of the murals. So for the murals here in San Francisco, we have to go, unless it's private dollars, if any public dollars are being used to create a mural, we have to go through the Arts Commission. So the Arts Commission themselves also have a record of all of the murals. When it is in private property with private dollars, we try to meet. Like, we're not always successful, right? Because an owner is going to do what they want in their home. But most people that want to do murals in their home are really looking at mimicking what's around them, right? There's already people that have that like what they see, so they want to mimic it. And we get a lot of emails like, hey, I really want to do a mural. Do you have a muralist? And we'll send them a list of muralists, and then they work with them. And that's how right now, that's why we say that we have over 700, and we don't say the exact amount, because right now we're trying to count how many actual murals we have, because just in the past 6 months, we've sponsor or refer at least 10 new murals. So we have to go look. We're trying to get the count, but it is definitely a community effort.
And in terms of the art component of your organization, what other services do you provide for the community, art services?
So the events, making sure that we not only put on events, so we have the huge events, and then we have micro events. So we'll activate Bar Plaza, we'll activate the Placita. We make sure that we always keep in our community active with cultural events. And for things such as, for instance, Cinco de Mayo and Dia de los Muertos, which was getting very gentrified, right? Like in Cinco de Mayo, like you used to see people just go, it's Drinko de Mayo, and like, you know, like really being disrespectful in the way that they were partying. So we'll do education campaigns, but like, it is, please come and celebrate our culture, but celebrate the culture, do not cartoon it into what you think it means. And then the same for Dia de los Muertos. Some people thought it was like a continuation of Halloween, and you know, it's actually a very spiritual night. It's really about connecting with your ancestors, is really remembering and honoring those who have left us and who are in tradition coming back to visit and be with their families. And so alcohol is really not the best way to welcome your loved ones back. Alcohol, you know, like party, you know, we Latinos like to party, but what is the party about, right? Are you partying with your ancestors in mind? Are you bringing their memory? Are you loving them? Are you honoring them? Or are you just taking it as something to dress up and have fun? So like doing those type of things so that people that want to participate can do it by honoring the culture and learning a little bit more and really being part of it, and not, because sometimes people are disrespectful because they don't know. But once you know, you can do better.
Yeah, that's true. We'll open it up to audience. I have one more question, but we'll open it up to audience questions in just a minute. Please enter your question into the chat, or alternatively, you can also request a question on video. If you would like to share your video, just raise your hand, use the icon, the react icon to raise your hand, and we'll be moderating the questions as they come in. But one of my final questions for you, Susana, you know, our audience here come from many different planning, city planning backgrounds, art backgrounds, you know, maybe government or private, and maybe they live in a community that they're seeing maybe beginnings of a cultural corridor or a cultural district. What advice do you have for our planners who are looking maybe to see some, you know, potential to start something like that in their communities?
I would say, first of all, what our founders did is they actually traveled around the United States to different corridors and different cultural havens to see what the difference were and what the similarities were and how they apply to the mission. So I would suggest, I don't know if you guys can travel, but definitely now we have the benefit of Zoom, like having Zoom meetings, really understanding what the similarities and the differences are, so that when you are supporting those efforts, they're very clear in your head how they fit in the community that's there, and the rules and regulations that are currently there. I think also not being afraid to be bold and not being afraid to challenge things that may not be beneficial for the community, but that are already in the books. And we're going to have to advocate to tweak them or erase them or make them, enhance them. You know, it all depends on what's in the books that can be utilized to make sure that we protect our communities. And then also, like really having an understanding of the community needs and how it's ever evolving, and how what we're going to do is not something that is going to be good only for now, but how can it be, how can it grow and how can it pivot as things change in our community so that it can continue to stay to be a cultural heaven.
Thank you, Susana. Let's start with audience questions. Here's a question from Brenda Kazar. Brenda says, I'm curious about the property ownership. Does your organization talk with building owners and encourage them to rent to culturally relevant tenants? And does the city work with you and the zone to mitigate gentrification, at least commercially? And
Yes and yes.
And they say they love your glasses.
Thank you. I have a big collection. I chose the more subtle today. Usually I have very bright colors in my face, but it's both. So we do have meetings with people who want to build in our community to make sure that we are trying to encourage from the beginning the kind of developments that we want in the community. And we are not afraid to oppose development in our community when it's not really respecting or honoring our community. So for instance, right now we are in a big fight for a huge lot on 22nd and Mission, where there were 2 fires in a row. The last fire actually killed one of the tenants, and they've been holding off the development because they want to develop 100% market rate, you know, like condos and things like that. And they want to do it like a 10 feet, not 10 feet, 10 floors building, which we don't have anything like that in the Mission. It would be like a skyscraper for us. So we've been fighting it, and they definitely right now, as you guys know, statewide, there's a big push to build more housing, and they're pushing San Francisco to erase some of the protections that we have because they say that it takes too long for development. But part of the reason why it takes so much to develop in our city is because there's groups like ours that have protection in the planning code, and we work with planning to make sure that our community doesn't get gentrified. So sometimes people look at something and they think they're going to do something better, but in reality, they're really affecting communities like ours, because then now we're not going to have the same kind of protections and the same kind of power for us to say, no, your 20 floor development doesn't fit here, because they're in a hurry to build housing. But build housing for who? That's the question. Who are you trying to build housing for? So it's definitely making sure that you're not afraid to fight those things and to speak up.
Yes, thank you. We have another question from Mike Klein, who writes, I work with a town with a lot of beloved murals, but had no official mechanism for protection of the murals. Does the Mission have something in place that blocks removal of murals by property owners?
So the murals are part of our cultural assets of the Latino Cultural District. So we just yet we don't have them everywhere in the mission. That's part of the reason why we're trying to join the American Indian Cultural District and the Latino Cultural District, so we can span the protections throughout. So that's one. So once they're part of our cultural assets and they're on our list, we can go and gently remind them that that's a cultural asset. And if they have erased it before we got to them, to make sure that they replace it with either the same muralist if they're still alive and they're still around, and or the same type of mural, so that it is replaced with something that is culturally relevant. We also, anytime that we get grants for mural, we try to get grants for murals so that we can offer some money for the murals to be created, so that is not only on the property owners to have to front that money. And then once we are able to give a little bit of money, we have a little bit more say on what goes on the wall than if we don't have that.
Thank you, Mike. Here's another question from Daniel Tucker, and it's for either of us. Does Calle 24 and the market address the tension between economic impact and cultural impact? And they're just thinking about a cultural district in the area where they live in Philly that is a failed business district, and most of the businesses are not lasting. But it's also working as a cultural educational corridor. So any comment about the tension of economic impact and cultural impact?
I think that it is a fabricated tension, because people really think that they go like this, when in reality they go like this. Because right now we are having we're post-pandemic and we're having economic recovery. When you come to the San Francisco, the two neighborhoods that are recuperating economically the fastest are Chinatown and the Mission. And the third one is what is that? North Beach. The thing that they have in common is that they are culturally heavy. They have a very clear cultural identity. They have cultural events, and people go to those places because they want to experience the culture. So when you're really talking about economics and culture, they go hand in hand, because people don't want to go to the cookie cutter, like, square box places and the fancy restaurants. When you want to go to a fancy restaurant, you'll make that and you'll save up and you go to that, but that's not a destination where you want to come and hang out and walk around and get to know people and hang at the park and look at the murals. It is the culture that brings the economy, but the narrative goes the other way around, because that benefits gentrification.
And exactly, I mean, I'll just add from the market side that the culture is here, so there is a need to celebrate. In terms of tension, I mean, there's a history of tension with the brick and mortar restaurants and the street vendors here in Southern California. I mean, that's always been the conversations that are happening here. Now the city of LA has recently decriminalized, street vending. So there's kind of like an evolution of, maybe legally, but culturally, there's still a lot of tensions. We've seen a lot of incidents where there's a tax on street vendors and different locations across the area. So culturally, I would say there's still a lot of deep, rooted racism. Um, uh, so unfortunately, that's still occurring. But that's why these places are havens, they're important for safe spaces for our community. And wherever they may arise, it's important for them to kind of, thrive economically and also culturally, because they're places to enjoy and that we want to see continue.
If I may add,
yeah.
And it's also our responsibility to spread the news, to spread the real information, to spread the statistics, to make sure that people understand. Because also the people who are shopping with street vendors are very, very different population than the people that are going to boutiques. I mean, there are some people that go to boutiques and see a beautiful necklace from one of the street vendors. They're gonna go get it, right? Beauty is beauty and art is art. But but people understanding, especially storefronts understanding that the street vendors are not taking customers away from them. Because when I want to go and sit down at a restaurant, I'm going to go and sit down to a restaurant, and seeing a hot dog vendor outside is not going to stop me from going to eat what I want to eat. But also, if I'm in a hurry and I only want to eat a hot dog, I can also get a hot dog. So there's different scenarios in which people support both, and having different economic opportunities for people, right? Not only for the people that are making the money, but also for the people that are spending their money, that they're able to decide, today I'm going to go and get a beautiful necklace that I saw because I saw la señora that was walking by and I want to make sure that I get it. Or, you know what, actually, I want to go get, I don't know, what is one, there's this beautiful boutique that creates this beautiful handmade, what are they called, almohadas? So maybe I can go to that, right? So people have a choice when they're making, and different economic levels of goods make it good for the whole community, not just for those who have money, but also those who may not have as much money.
I agree. There's space for everything, right? There's space and place for everyone, and accessibility for everyone to support a variety of services in their community. Okay, any other questions from our audience? You could also raise your hand if you'd like to be on camera. We would like to hear from you. I could also plug our next big event right now, since we have a little bit of time. I'll put it in the chat. On November 7th and 8th, the Latinos in Planning Division is hosting our annual Lugares conference. It's a virtual conference, and we're going to partner again with Arts and Planning and offer, a discount for the members to attend. And this year, our theme is Nuestras Historias. And so it's a storytelling theme about our communities, about our leaders, our planners. We'll have a keynote from Lydia Otero from the Arizona community, historian, LGBT activist. And so we're really excited about that. And I'll put it in the chat and link for you all to join us. So thank you.
Thanks, Vidal. Thank you so much, Susana and Vidal and Latinos in Planning for today. I'm also going to drop our newsletter for the Arts and Planning Division. If you would like to join future events, I encourage you to sign up. The link should work. Great. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording and end the event now.